Hi, welcome to Quirky Queen's Journals. My name's Kirsten. So I've got the gel plate, the alcohol ink markers and my Edith Holden an English country garden, is it called? I have my Edith Holden book out. So I've found this great hairy willow herb and I thought, I'm going to draw that. If only because it's such a great name for a flower. So this is actually my fourth attempt at drawing it, because the first time I used a white Posca pen. The second time I used a darker alcohol marker, like dark green on the outside. And when I put the alcohol on, I didn't really incorporate that in to the overall picture. So I'm doing it again. This is my third time, not my fourth time, sorry. So I'm using this potato brown colour alcohol marker, and actually for the video it's probably not ideal because it's a pretty similar colour to my gel plate. But just persevere with me, because I do use darker colours, but it's just to get this initial structure down. When I did this initially, I actually sketched it normally on paper and then I put the paper underneath the gel plate. But because this is the third time, it was a bit easier to draw. So I thought I'll just go freehand. It's actually there's quite a lot going on in this one because of all the leaves going in different directions. And then trying to place the different levels of the leaves was quite difficult. So that's why I sketched it in the first place. Anyway, I'm off at a tangent. So I love this. I love how it looks. It's very whimsical. I think the way that the alcohol markers are on the jelly plate, because when you add in the rubbing alcohol, you know, the alcohol you just use to clean your hands with, it just blends it together and it just gives it a lovely glazed look, I suppose. That's how I would describe it actually. It makes it look glazed. Now, I've actually been thinking, and you know, I should probably use one of the blending markers with this, because what I'm doing is I'm using far too much of the alcohol on it, I think. And I think if I just use the blending marker, I would have more texture overall, but I would still keep some of the structure of the plant. Now, you'll see that as we go on, that actually trying to maintain the plant, the structure where the leaves start and end, the separation between the leaves from each other, that's what's the most difficult thing here to maintain. See the way that the leaf on the right is in front of the one on the left? We're trying to keep that as the most difficult thing with the alcohol markers on the gel plate. So what I do like about the alcohol markers is the range of colours. So I have 80 in the pack, and generally these come in really big packs. So you do have a lot of colours to choose from. I think you could do this with alcohol inks and a paintbrush though. It's probably a bit easier with the pens. But next time I do it, I will try the blending pen rather than the rubbing alcohol. So what happens is every time you put on, I basically just keep sketching over with the different colours. And every time you come in with a new colour, it gets that bit easier, because you've already got the plant sketched out. But what does become more difficult is trying to maintain that separation of the parts from each other. So I'm just kind of into drawing flowers just now. I've kind of been, well, this is me practising. I've done them in vases. I did some gel plate, drew vases of flowers, more simple doodles, not from an actual proper illustration like this. And then in the last video, I did some with fine liner pens after watching the Creative Cove. And now I thought, let's combine the jelly plate. I did initially try it with the fine liner, but I think that a really narrow nibbed Posca pen would be good, so I'm going to need to get a black one of them. Because I think that would write well on the gel plate. And I should really try and paint them on the gel plate as well with paintbrushes, and acrylic paints. I just like the effect that the gel plate gives to the finished picture, because everything is flat and also it's got that printed look. It also just gives an extra something, because there is a bit of an unpredictability about it. Because you're putting the stuff onto the jelly plate in the opposite order of what you would do on a painting on paper or canvas, it just has a different look to it, and it's just a different way of adding interest. Because I could have done this in paper and I wouldn't have got the glazed look using the rubbing alcohol. But it just wouldn't look the same. It wouldn't look any better or worse. It just would look different. And I really like the gel plate. And I like the way that the alcohol markers move in the gel plate as well. And I also like that if I do make a bit of an error, that I can just wipe it. And not have to ruin my whole picture. So this stage is quite repetitive, because you're trying to get texture into the leaves, you're trying to get in different colours, and you're also trying to maintain the structure of the plant. But I do come in with a darker colour next, I'm sure. Yes. I was hoping that the darker colour would help sort of define the leaves, but without looking like it was an outline. I'll just need to keep practising with this. I will come up with a formula that I feel like, right, this is the best way to get a natural look with it. So after this darker colour, then I go back with one of the mid-tone colours again, and I just use that to help sort of blend it in a bit more. Although I'm putting on the rubbing alcohol, and that does do a lot of the blending, I want the alcohol markers to not be overly blended, so I kind of want them positioned so that they're running into each other, the colour that's next to it, but they're not just blending into one big colour, if that makes sense. That's the plan. And I'm sure that's what we do next as well, as the rubbing alcohol. These alcohol markers are actually pretty good at blending with each other. There's just something nice about the liquid alcohol. It creates little pools and harsh lines. So although there are kind of harsh lines there already, it just makes them more natural and a bit less solid looking, so they look a bit more liquidy, fluid. It's also quite satisfying to do this. It's worth the tedious part of repeatedly putting on different alcohol marker colours. Now, the one thing I have noticed here is that I think in this case less is more, because I find that where I've put on more of the liquid rubbing alcohol, that actually that has, it's kind of ruined the texture effect, and what happens is it just pushes all the colour out and you just end up with a kind of blank area, a solid colour I suppose. But overall I love this. I love the effect it gives, and it's definitely something I've already been doing a lot of it. I'm sure you've seen a few videos of the alcohol markers on the gel plate. But it's something I will continue to do. Oh, and then I go in and I write the name of the plant. And I had to write it down. I wrote it on paper with one of the alcohol markers so that it would bleed through to the other side of the paper. And then I turned the paper round so the writing was backwards, because I really struggled to write the letters backwards from just my brain. I could have done that sort of thing no bother before. It's definitely getting a wee bit older that does that. So yeah, top tip, get a piece of printer paper and just write your words on one side and let it bleed through to the other and then copy it. That's what I did. Should have told you that. I should have let you all think I was dead brainy. So I chose to use titanium buff because I think that this is quite a whimsical, vintage, shabby chic vibe to it. And I think that titanium buff is a good colour for that. Now, I put down a layer it's too thin, you can see it. And I just know that the paper would stick to the gel plate with that amount. So I risked losing the whole thing by putting on another layer on top of that, which is why I've left big circle bits and not blended it out as much as I normally would, because I was scared it would start pulling the image up. But it all worked out fine, and that's good. Now this works very fast. You keep quite a thin layer of the paint and the alcohol markers lift up quick. And I actually find if you leave it down too long, you're more likely to get the paper sticking to the alcohol markers on the plate, because I think it dries out very fast. So that's it there. I'm really happy with it. I think it could do with a bit of polishing, but I'm really enjoying doing these just now, so I'm going to keep doing them. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you soon, and take care. Bye.